Hey there! Before we begin the show today, I wanted to bring you some exciting news. That's right, Summer is Coming has our first giveaway. Team Covenant has very generously donated to us a set of power tokens, and you can choose whatever house you want if you win. In order to qualify for this giveaway, very simple. Do two things. One, subscribe to the channel. Two, put a comment below. It can be anything. You can tell me how much you like the show, what you'd like to see different about the show, or just simply what house you would like to win if you do win the giveaway. I will ship it to you free of charge if you're in the United States. If you're not, have to do a little research. Can't go broke sending you power tokens. And so once again, thank you so much to Team Covenant for generously supplying us with this giveaway, and hopefully we'll have lots of giveaways in the future. Now, on with the show. Welcome back to Summer is Coming, episode 7. This week, hush. A champion is in our midst. Neil, did you win a championship?
Ooh, I changed a lot if I'm Neil.
It's not Neil at all. It's Neil's murderer. Nope, Neil's fine. He's just busy this week. So this week we want to bring in a guest, JBFlanz. JB, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, as you said, that's my handle that I kind of go on a lot of different mediums and whatnot. I am the host of the Netrunner podcast, Corp Draw. I've had some decent successes playing Netrunner, but really excited to finally really dig into the card games because I'm mainly a miniatures player. I play War Machine, travel the world and stuff to play War Machine. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a good career, but I think that, or not career, but, gaming career.
Sure.
But getting more into the cards back like I used to with Magic.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. For me, it's kind of the reverse. I like miniatures games, but I'm a card game player by heart. I'll mess around with the miniatures, but I don't know. I have like a whole fishing tackle box set full of the Star Wars miniatures, and I had all that going on. But I'm a card game player, so it's good to have you in the card game world. How long have you been playing Netrunner then?
I've been playing it since the third expansion, so I guess it's like March of 2 years ago. It's like the third pack it came out. So I guess it came out technically at Gen Con 2012.
I think
want to
so,
say.
yeah.
And then I think I got into it like March 2013.
So what you're telling me is I've been playing Netrunner longer than you.
You probably buy every game though, Tiny.
No, actually, I only have the core. I have one core, actually. I will take you down with my one core, JBFlanz. Look out.
Yeah, no, I mean, Netrunner's been awesome, and it's been really cool to see the progression of it because it's a really unique game in the way that it's designed, and I think that's one of the most interesting things about it. And yeah, I came out hot. I got my very first tournament was a regional, and I ended up getting 4th place, and from there, just kind of trailblazing and trying to do the best I can.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this is not a podcast about Netrunner, or actually, as I would say, fortunately. But I do want to talk about another game before we get into Game of Thrones, and that is the news that came out of Conquest this week that the world champion, actually I guess it would be the Gen Con champion, actually cheated on camera in the finals. Now, this is what impresses me. Not that someone cheated. I think people cheat all the time. I think we don't realize how much people cheat in events. But he had the audacity, the balls, to cheat on camera.
Yeah.
That takes a lot. What do you think? What do you think about that, JB? Cheating right there on camera.
It's really interesting. I mean, it's actually happened in, like I said, my other game that I play, War Machine, where because we now record games and show them off, and man, I mean, like you said, you've got to have some freaking balls, and to do that too, there's a certain amount of pressure that I think people feel, and I think that's where a lot of it comes from. But sometimes you're just a scrub, and you're just scum, and you just want to do it, and trying to do it on camera. I mean, I didn't see the actual footage exactly, but it was from what I heard, it seemed pretty blatant, like very.
Yeah, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, actually, it's that it's both blatant and good. Like people had to slow it down to frame by frame to be able to even see it. So it seems like it's a well practiced technique that maybe he's like, hey, listen, I get away with it all the time. This is no different. No one's going to detect it. Little does he know, the internet is really good at
God, they're so good.
If we had the Zapruder film on the internet, we would know who killed JFK.
Probably so.
Yeah. So what do you think about this idea of cheating? Do you think, like I do, that a lot of people cheat in these games? Because there's this notion that because it's FFG and there's no money on the game, no one would ever cheat at our beloved FFG games because it's just for pride. Do people cheat for pride, JB?
Oh my God, they do. And you catch them, and sometimes they make it seem like an accident. And it's winning the game is generally more important than stuff like money. I always find it funny when you hear the comments like, "Oh, once money gets in the game, it'll be ruined." The one thing that money will do is people will definitely play the strong, quote unquote, strongest thing in the meta, but they already do that anyways at the biggest tournaments. So I don't think that money is necessarily the qualifier for cheating. I think that pride and that's what a lot of gamers put on their backs. They're like, hey, I'm successful, and then people look up to you, and they want that. So I think that is really the main course of cheating. And like I said, in a card game, man, that's really tough. Like, at least with a game, once again, to reference miniatures, like there's at least a lot of things going on a big table,
right?
And movement isn't it's not always guaranteed,
Yeah.
So that in a card game, I mean, slipping a card here or doing whatever there. I think in a lot of games, missed triggers and things like that. People obviously they won't ever state your triggers, very rarely.
Right.
And then they might give an additional trigger, like, oh,
Sure.
I get it here again, and I've already gotten the bonus already once, or something like that. That's a common way that people, I think, manipulate.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, JB. Have you ever cheated?
I would probably. I mean, I think the answer is yes. I think it not that I can think about, but
Right.
I've certainly unintentionally done it.
Oh yeah. I mean more intentionally. Like, have you thought know what?
I've never found myself in the position where I've been making the conscious decision to pull one over on my opponent.
Yeah, and if you did, you probably weren't going to be like, yes, I did. Let me tell you the events that I have sullied.
I got this guy so good.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there is kind of a problem that I'm sort of known as, I'm not going to say a cheater, but as somebody who makes errors in our meta, and then those look like cheating. Not look like cheating, I shouldn't say, but they give me advantages, they give my opponent advantages. It's sort of all over the place. If you saw an earlier podcast, I talked about how a friend of mine canceled my event with treachery and completely ruined the game. And because I wasn't really paying close enough attention, I was talking to a guy over here, I was doing this over here. The end of the game comes around, I'm like, wait, you canceled my hand's judgment with treachery? You can't do that! And he's like, oh, well, why didn't you stop me? So it's a really interesting dilemma where this is kind of what happened in the Conquest tournament, right? Is his opponents weren't paying close enough attention, because it's real easy to keep track of someone's hand size. I mean, to me, it's just an obvious thing you do. In Conquest, it's a little harder because you can get those hands where you have I have 27 cards. They can be really hard to know, wait, didn't you have 24 before?
Yeah, exactly.
But in Game of Thrones, it's much different, where pretty much every turn, as we go back into the plots, I'm always saying, how many cards do you have? Usually during their challenge phase, so I can figure out, okay, when's Wildfire coming, right? Is it the next plot? Is it 2 turns from now? Is it 3 turns from now? I have to know exactly how many cards you have, how many you're going to have, how many you're going to have after I pull them out. There's all these calculations. So, at least to me, it would be harder for someone to get away with cheating card draw against me. But apparently you can play any card you want anytime against me, and I'm just like, whatever, that's fine. And I do the same. I accidentally make errors, and my opponents look at me and go, what? You're like a veteran player. This must be cheating. And I'm like, no, trust me, it's not cheating. I play 28 games. It's a stupid thing I do. I should only play Thrones, but it's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, in Thrones, it's just that it's a resource in every game in your hand, but I mean, it's a much more quantifiable resource that you're attacking, so it definitely is more important in a game like that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Hopefully this kind of episode we'll see a little less cheating. What I found most interesting, and again, I'm just going to say allegedly cheating, because I don't know. I think he probably did, but hasn't been proven. Behind a shadow of a doubt, I guess. But he went on the forums and was basically like, oh, I didn't cheat. And then it looks like he made a secondary account to defend himself.
Wow.
And this is the part that really is interesting to me. That it is all ego, right? Because why would you care what people think if you're willing to give them the double bird and cheat in the finals on camera? You actually care what they think about you also? And that's what makes it so interesting in FFG games. Because there are no prizes, you are cheating for that pride. And if you get caught, that's all you have is the pride. It's not like you won some great prize. You're like, okay, I'm the best player in the game. No, you're not. You're a cheater. Oh, no. That cheating really backfired.
Yeah, and it's and like you said, it's funny because I guess he's trying to uphold his status as a decent player. But you were saying earlier, you know, he might have been pulling this over on people for a very long time, especially if it's a quick sleight of hand play.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm just going to say this here, and I'm not, okay, let me qualify this. I am not saying anyone else in his meta cheats. But this is what I will say, is that generally the way cheating works is a group of people sort of decides what they think is morally okay and what's on their opponent, right? I don't know many cheaters who are like psychopaths and are like, I murder children and then I come to FFG events and they're the same for me. Usually it's something like, if my opponents are so stupid that they let me get away with X, then Y is okay.
Yeah.
And generally, like, a whole meta sort of has that same mentality. So I'm a little bit scared that there are a couple of people in that meta that sort of have agreed with him and said, like, yeah, I mean, if we're going to go to Gen Con and people let you draw 3 cards, hey, that's on them. They should be watching you.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I hope that this floor rules. I mean, essentially what needs to happen sometimes is there needs to be a scapegoat. There needs to be someone who gets caught and crushed and ran out of the community, and that really puts a shock through the community, and that's going to, unfortunately, sometimes it's a necessary evil to stop if this casual cheating, we'll call it, does actually go on.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with FFG is they generally don't do things like this. Like, they DQ'd a bunch of people at a melee table, but that was in the moment with people going berserk on the internet watching the game going, these cheaters, I can't believe this. And like hundreds of people complaining about rampant cheating at the spot, kind of putting FFG in a tough moment in the middle of the night also with like one judge in the middle. And it's like, it was a really weird, crazy moment. I have a hard time seeing them after the fact making a really heavy judgment on this person, except for the fact that he went online and made himself look like such a douchebag. Had he not done that, I think they would have had a harder time.
I'm not saying it's up to FFG to banish them. It's up to FFG to, you know, like, not saying this person, but in the future, like when you see someone, you get the cheating, you understand what it is, they get DQ'd, and then a big stink is made about it by the internet. As we've already discovered, they're quite sharp.
Yeah.
And angry.
Yeah, I would say here's just a word of warning to cheaters out there. Cheat in the early rounds. Don't cheat on camera. You're gonna get busted. It's just gonna happen. And then what did you win? You won nothing. It's not like FFG gives you a new car for winning. Oh, well.
That's fair.
All right, so I think we should move on from cheating. I think it's a fascinating topic because, actually, I guess we're not going to move on quite yet. I'll say this. In our meta, I'm sort of the take advantage of situation guy. And then I teach this to my meta, right? And I don't mean cheating-wise. And so I think, like I said, it's like where everyone draws that line. So for me, I will give my opponents opportunities to make errors. So I don't know if you've played the Star Wars game, but there was this an objective where you could damage it to heal your own guy. And the way Star Wars works is if you blow up objectives, you know, the other team gets points. So I was playing a friend of mine, and I only needed to blow up one more objective to win. His objective that heals had 4 damage on it. One more and it blows up, and his Luke Skywalker was damaged. And so he went into that phase, and I said, hey, you want to heal Luke? And he was like, of course I want to heal Luke. Heal Luke. And I stuck my hand out and I said, good game. And he was like, whoa, what do you mean good game? I was like, well, in healing Luke, you trigger that objective, which blew it up, and now I win. And he went crazy. I was like, you can't do that. I was like, listen, I didn't do anything. I asked you if you want to heal Luke. And so some people would probably look at that and go, that is horrible and dirty, and you should never do that. And my theory is sort of, that's not cheating, it's giving your opponent an opportunity to make a blunder. And so I do those kind of things, and I teach that kind of stuff to my meta, that this is how serious tournaments work. You don't do that in a little small tournament, but at Worlds, that's fair game. And more than anything, be ready for your opponent to do that.
If you can't handle table talk, like that's going to happen. I mean, Netrunner is a crazy game of table talk. There's a lot of characters in there. I'm sure Thrones is no different. Always suggesting and talking, especially with, the combat math, and you're like, man, if I can get him to commit this guy, then
exactly.
Something else is going to open up. And it just seems innocent at the time, but in the end, you're like, man, I needed that one guy.
Yeah, and another little trick. I'm going to give you guys a trick here. Whenever you pull a card from somebody with an intrigue challenge, you want to crush their soul. Even if it's the worst card in their deck, what I like to do is pull it from their hand and go, oh, thank goodness I got that. because of X, Y, and Z, and put it in their head like, oh no, that was my best card. And then they tilt just a little bit, and maybe they make a poor decision when you know, oh wow, I got screwed. That was a terrible card to draw. There's all just these little mind games you can play, and so it's to me that doesn't rub up against cheating. But I could see how other people would say, I can push it farther. I can push it farther. If my opponent doesn't take a power for his renown, that's on him, right?
Yeah,
that's not my job to make him do his keywords. Now, for me, that is a framework action. It's a keyword. I make them do it. And so you might say, what? You convince your opponent to kill themselves, but you give them their power? And to me, these are different scenarios. That's
because
where I
one is
draw
mandatory.
the line. Yes, exactly. One's bantering, one is framework action. So, I don't know.
Tiny Grimes taking the intrigue challenge literally. Really just getting in there.
Very literally. To me, I mean, I play a lot of games, so head games are the most fun for me when I get to play in person. Because I play online half the time, and you can't talk to your opponents.
No.
And so when I get in person, I'm like a chatterbox. If you want to beat me, step one, don't listen to a word I say. It's all garbage. I will never say one actual useful, helpful thing the whole game. It's all misdirection and subterfuge. So, but it's fun. It's a good time.
I just imagine, I've always wanted to see a video of something like this, like a guy playing Hearthstone. And he's like yelling at the computer and banging on his keyboard, and his little guy's like, hello.
Yeah.
Because I imagine like when you really can't interact with them.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I play games like Hearthstone. Or at least I used to. I've gotten away from that. I don't trash talk my opponents anymore because it doesn't do anything. Oh, well. So I want to ask you a question then. You are a new Thrones player, right? You did not play 1.0 at all.
I played 2 games of 1.0 like 2 years ago.
Okay.
So yeah.
So you're essentially new to 2.0, coming from Netrunner, coming from War Machine. How has your transition been so far into Game of Thrones?
It's been really awesome. I mean, I as a gamer, I've played just like you, played tons of games, online, person, board games, card games, whatever. And it's really cool to see the potential of a new game and that excitement that you can, man, when this happens, and I've seen everyone who talks about Thrones like, oh, well, when something like this comes out, it's going to be excellent.
Yeah.
So like the musing and the thinking about the game is great. And then the way that you have to think about the game, the outplays, it's just a new set of system that has a new set of rules that, I find it very intriguing. And I think that as time goes on, especially away from just this core set mentality that we've seen in every FFG game, once those other cards come and take the place of others, or specifically in Thrones, reducing copies of something that you might have 3 of because it's the best you have, to less. It's going to be a much more intriguing game. I think it's going to be more. I want to say it's going to be the most diverse game probably in the FFG universe once there's more stuff, because I think that the options will be higher. There'll be larger options. From what I can tell from people from playing 1.0, that you see a lot more cards. And now it's a 60-card deck, if I'm not mistaken, which is a change from 1.0.
No, it's the same.
It is? I thought they said it was 50 at one point.
No, they're both 60.
Okay. Well, seeing more cards is very cool. And I think that, it's an excellent game for sure.
Okay. Yeah, I know for myself, I like the core set, but yeah, I definitely agree with that mentality that the game will be much better as we get more cards in. It's especially events. Right now when you play against Greyjoy and they swing in for an unopposed challenge and you go, okay, so I know you want to play We Do Not Sow. That's what you want to play. That's the only event that actually even is relevant here. I'll oppose it with this guy. And they're like, dang it! How did you know I was going to sow that? Well, that's literally the only event you could have there that would do anything. So that's how I knew.
And also some factions are just completely hamstringed by the fact that their events are terrible. Night's Watch their events are pretty poor. Obviously Meager is Meager, but that's in place of a reducer, which, and by the way, Meager seems great, and I know there's some times where you can really screw over your opponent with it, but sometimes you get stuck going first, and then your Meager is terrible. So but the other two are just very situational. Something like Take the Black is way expensive and right now just irrelevant, whereas in the future, you might see some play.
Yeah, I think Take the Black is going to be really interesting because you're right now it's a completely useless. I think it's a total garbage card.
It's character-driven environment.
Yeah, when that shift happens where they print some amazing neutral and like a neutral non-unique and it goes into every deck.
Yep.
That first event or first couple months before people realize that shift has happened, and you're the guy that sneaks in, take the black. Oh, it's gonna be devastating. That's what I find so much fun about Thrones is when the meta shifts and not everyone has quite realized it, and you can really do some cool stuff for one event, a couple months in there, and then everyone reacts and adjusts, and then the next thing comes out and the meta shifts again. So, and with so few cards, the meta is gonna shift dramatically, I hope.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that we're going to see a lot of changes as time goes on. And FFG does such a beautiful job. I mean, I know that they've been developing Cards for Thrones for a little bit. They took the game from someone else, but they had to live with the mistakes that another person made in the beginning. And with something like Netrunner, where I've seen, obviously there was an original version, but now we have this brand new version. And to see them always, not necessarily fixing their mistakes, but if there's something here, they are really good at adding something there to kind of counterbalance that. Or they have a set of cards, like something they wanted to try. It becomes kind of worthless. They've done a really good job of inserting cards in the future that make it much more relevant. And you see entire archetypes come out of the ground, and I think that they're going to do a good job with that. And I can see, with there being 7 unique factions, they're going to have a lot of room to play.
Yeah, to me, that's the only thing that worries me, is having so many factions.
So many.
I'm nervous that the chapter packs will have less impact than they did in 1.0. In 1.0, you knew they were going to have some impact. Here you're kind of like, well, hopefully they'll have impact.
Yeah, we'll be looking back on them as entire sets and being like, okay, well, out of this phase, what did we get for our faction? Because it's likely that the packs are, I mean, they're going to be 20 unique cards still, right? So,
yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, if you can't even give 3 to every house.
Yeah, exactly. And so the real problem is going to be for the house exclusive people. They're like, listen, I play Stark. That's what I play. And then when 3 straight chapter packs come out and Stark doesn't get a relevant card, it becomes really frustrating. For someone like me, I play whatever's good. That's just how I play games.
Sure.
And so it's a little bit less relevant for me. There's usually something in a chapter pack that elevates some faction that wasn't good before to a new spot, and it's fun to jump around and move around, and I enjoy that. So hopefully,
you like to build decks too, though.
What's up?
You seem like you like to build decks as well, though. So.
It's funny because I'm more of a player than a deck builder. This is generally what ends up happening. I mean, in a small card pool, more so I build decks, but generally someone will build a deck. I will say, your deck is garbage. And they'll be like, really? I say, yep. And I change 6 cards. And then now it's the Tiny Grimes awesome, amazing deck that nothing beats. And they're like, you said my deck was garbage. I'm like, it was. It was total garbage. You had 1/10 of your deck was garbage. And now it's great. And people in my meta sometimes think that's funny. Like, the Tiny Grimes special. You stole my deck. And I'm like, listen, I didn't steal anything. It's your deck, only now it's with me playing it and much improved. So.
Yeah, no, I mean it will be interesting, like you said, to see the stuff come out. I mean, they've done a really good job of putting a lot of character into these packs, from what I see. I'm really interested to see if they're going to lean on factions in packs, like sometimes giving 4 or even 5 cards in a pack to a certain faction. Because it seems like that
I don't
kind
think
of
they are.
It's what they. I hope they don't, but I mean, you never know. I mean, it has happened in the past with our FFG games where a faction gets a significant increase of.
I mean, in the chapter packs for Thrones, I can't remember a single chapter pack where it was wildly unbalanced. It was, I think it was something like 2 cards, and then one or 2 factions would get 3 cards. And I imagine that's the direction they'll take, but with more factions, it is going to be harder. I kind of would like to see that, actually. I'd kind of like to see, Stark gets 3 cards in this pack, and, maybe 3 or 4 of the houses get cards in this pack, and then the next pack, a couple houses get cards. I don't think they're going to do that. It would be a way to make the packs a little more impactful, though. But I
think the reality is if some houses are going to get 2 anyways, you could literally give 6 houses 2, drop in another 2 neutrals up to 14, and then give up to 6 cards to an individual faction if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yep.
So I mean,
if you're counting neutrals, then definitely, yeah. I mean, they've done that before, where you look at a pack and you're like, wow, that is definitely the Martell Maester pack. That pack is great.
I see what you're saying.
So it'll be interesting moving forward. I know I'm looking forward to it. So are you thinking that you might stop playing Netrunner entirely and just become a full-time Thrones player, or is it more like you like both of the games?
I like both the games, and especially with Netrunner being in a very, very good spot right now, and Thrones being brand new, I'm definitely going to be wanting to play Thrones. But when it comes to competitive play, I'll probably still be taking the nod for the Netrunner. Specifically, I mean, like moving into worlds, traveling to worlds. I really need to stop playing Thrones so that I can get some practice with my decks that I'm going to be taking for Netrunner. But I mean, it's interesting. I can't, that's a tough question to ask because, like we said, we are in this core set environment. But moving forward, I can see Thrones being a more dominant game, specifically due to the popularity of the IP, and that's going to bring out more people. And then being good in a crowd of more people is certainly more enticing than the Netrunner crowd, which Southern California actually has a really good Netrunner scene and a really good Thrones scene, from what I'm familiar. And, so I think
it's interesting to hear you say that you would. So are you predicting that Thrones will be bigger than Netrunner? I kind of am, but a lot of people think I'm crazy.
I would say that once this... So there'll be 2 more seasons of the show, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Once this next season of the show kicks in, I'm not saying there'll necessarily be cross-promotion, but I think that it will reinvigorate a lot of people's love for this, specifically if it's good. And then it, from there, can just pop off and really do a lot of really big things.
Yeah, I've been wanting them to reset Thrones for a while for that very reason. That we have this show going, everyone would walk by the table and be like, "Oh, what's that? It's the Game of Thrones card game. There's a card game? That's amazing. Where do I get it?" Okay, well it's going to cost you about $2,000, and it's going to cost you about maybe 3 months of in-depth study to really get a good feel of where you're at.
Then you have to lose for about 5 months.
Oh yeah. We have all the best players in the world that play here, and we're going to crush you into oblivion. But it's going to be great. You're going to love it. You know what? I'll just pass on that. Thanks, though. Thanks very much for that offer. It was very enticing.
It's a box. Or a box and a pack.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I remember playing Star Wars from the beginning, and just how fun that was. So here's an admission I've never made publicly. I never really liked Star Wars from the beginning. But I love...
last week.
What's that?
You said that publicly last week.
On the show?
Oh, not on the show.
No, not on the show. I've never said it on the show. I love the IP Star Wars. Love it. I just never really loved the design of the game. I thought it was okay, and I was really hoping that it was sort of what we're talking about here, where the core set isn't ideal. As the game grows and matures, it will reach that point where I love the game even more. So in the meantime, I'm just relying on my love of Darth Vader and Yoda to sort of get me to that point. Star Wars never got to that point for me personally. But I still loved playing the game. Yeah. A game that's new, that's reset. Someone comes by, "Hey, what are you doing? Do you like Star Wars?" Yeah.
Am I in a game store?
Yeah. Go buy that one pack, and you're ready. Come join us. And it was so easy to start a meta, and it was so fun. And I'm really looking forward to doing that with Thrones. It's one of my favorite things is starting a meta and having a good time with people playing what I love to play.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of it. I think that stores are going to want to push it too because... I'm pretty confident that they enjoy the LCG style of release. Magic certainly is wildly more popular, and it does really well, and it does create a lot more sales over time, but there is a fluctuation, especially for smaller Magic metas where they need to invest a lot, and I've seen some stores where it doesn't come out as good as they hoped. Yeah. And with the LCG, it's pretty consistent. It's really easy to get a read on your community. I think it's great for stores, and they're getting a solid purchase of stuff every once in a while with a product that's always rotating as well. Or not rotating, but moving out of the store. So
yeah, exactly.
I think it's good. I think it's good for a store.
I agree. All right, I got a question for you. So what decks have you been gravitating towards as a new player? I'll start here and say, I don't know if you've heard of this. This Tiny Grimes guy released a Baratheon deck that no one had thought of before. There's this Kneel variant of Baratheon. It's really good. Have you tried that?
Never thought about it, kneeling in Baratheon.
I know. No one had until Tiny Grimes mentioned it.
Yeah. We played last week, and I got properly stomped. And it's been fun. I'm playing a couple different decks. I've been playing a Stark Tyrell deck. I don't really want to classify it as necessarily a rush deck, but it does get out on the board. And if you have a pretty solid board presence, there's a lot of renown. I know that last week I played 2 more games after we played, and I won both of them with that, even though I still had that stupid Gates of Winterfell in my deck. Changing that out has been a priority of mine. And it's been good. I really like that deck. It really kind of focuses on having 4 renown characters, because Tyrell are the only ones that that can bring 2 into your deck via banner, and using the strength buffs of Marjorie and keeping your front line always assembled, because you don't necessarily have the best guys. You pretty much just have like a host of strength 5, but being able to have that renown and have so much standing, it can see some life once you get it, once you get the right cards out, or once you get a couple cards out. The Tyrell cards aren't as important. Actually, I think Marjorie's the most important to let you have decent combat. But I've really enjoyed it, and it can make power really fast if it clicks. So
Do you have Put to the Sword in that deck?
I do. I run 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to a friend of mine about your deck and saying, like, I think we should look at this. It looks interesting. And I was describing it as a kill deck. I was like, yeah, he's got Winners Coming, Put to the Sword, and then he whittles your board down, he can march you. It's pretty cool.
I'm actually running Sneak Attack, but I might go to Winner. Oh, no, sorry. No, you said Winner's Coming. Yeah. I'm running Sneak Attack as well.
And it's funny because then he was like, oh, really? So it's like a dedicated kill deck? And I said, actually, it's kind of a dedicated renown deck.
It is.
And he's like, wait, what? It's like, I think it's both, actually. Now I'm even more intrigued. A renown, like, it seems like you have 2 strategies. If you need to, it can be a dedicated kill deck against something like Baratheon, where if you can just kill Mel or Bob early, you can probably swing it to your advantage. Or in other matchups where they're more spreading the board, you can just rush to victory with the power.
I mean, I know, like, in the game, like, you stopped me, and it was pretty much just Bob. You didn't even draw Melisandre, and you still just handled me.
Who needs Melisandre?
But I will say, I have played against Baratheon Fealty probably about 10 times now, and I only really have trouble with the Bob. The Melisandre, I have so many mid-range strength 5 renown characters. Yeah. It's really hard to tap down my board. And while I give up a lot of intrigue, as long as I get it out, I feel like I'm pretty strong into stuff. I also run 2 brands and 3 hands judgments. So I really try to take don't want to be taken advantage by Tears or by a Scene in Flames from Mel when that's their strategy. Yeah. So I feel like I actually have a pretty good way of handling some of that stuff. But a really big unstoppable guy, which pretty much only exists in Robert Baratheon, it's very hard for a bunch of strength 5 beats to take.
I do want to bring something up because I've talked about a card a lot that I think is the most underrated card in the game, and most people say that I'm crazy. What did you think of Ours is the Fury in our match? How did that affect the match?
Yeah, I've talked about it at length with my group, and I know that we talked about it at length there. It is the ultimate blowout card. There was a point in the game, if you recall, where I say, you've already played 1 Ours is the Fury, you have 2 cards in your hand, and we're only like on turn 3.
Yep.
And I say, if you have cards of the Fury, congratulations, you're going to win the game. And if not, I'm going to take a huge advantage right here. Yep. I swing in, there's the Ours is the Fury number 2. The game is completely blown out, and I can't come back.
Yeah, and it's people were talking about when I was explaining how it's so good. They're like, so basically, if your opponent is an idiot and walks into Ours of the Fury, you're telling me it's great. I'm like, well, sure, but it doesn't always work out that way. Can you really play around Ours is the Fury the whole game? Like, well, no, I can't do any challenges. He might have Ours is the Fury.
Yeah. No, I mean, the ability to block with Robert in an early stage, especially if there's some reducers on the table, so he's already going to be at like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
That, or you're playing Stannis at the time. Being able to block, and then with that Stannis, first of all, it's going to relieve you of the Stannis pressure and it'll allow you to attack if you're going second. Or you can just put him into a challenge that he wasn't meant to be in, which is really the most frustrating thing. When you think you're safe, I mean, there's not many cards that when you think you're safe, you're like, haha, I got you. Like, it's really not like, oh, don't lose this power challenge by 5 and you won't get, sorted. Or, don't lose this and you won't get Doran's games or something like that. Being able to not have a good understanding of that. Plus the fact that it costs 2, and it is a fealty card, so it really could cost 1 if you're holding your fealty back. Mm-hmm. It's really big because it's a lot harder to Hands Judgment, which is really important.
Yeah, it's hard to Hands Judgment. And if they have the fealty back, leaving 1 gold doesn't. It's not like it's that rare, right?
It's
like
innocent.
There's a lot of things that cost 1. Yep. Could be a Scene in the Flames. It could be anything.
Sure.
It's funny because I consider it to be the most underrated card in the core set. But at the same time, it'll be out of the deck soon. It's only going to last so long. Once there's better, cheaper, more flexible tricks, those will go in. But like you said, I feel like it's one of the hardest tricks to play around. They either have it or they don't, and when they do, it's usually a total blow-up.
Yeah, and that's why, while I agree with you, I think it'll leave the deck, I do believe that you'll see it every once in a while. And like maybe it's like, oh, this tournament I'm putting the Ars and the Fury in the deck, and then you could really just take advantage of some situations that you were earlier not prepared to deal with. Specifically when you have better like Baratheon, I think its biggest weakness is its bodies are just pretty bad. If you don't have Bob out, it's not as big of a blowout.
Yeah.
But
sure.
Because you're gonna get your renown, you're gonna get to stand him, which means he can participate in another combat of some sort. Yep. So that's a really big deal. But right now, if you don't have him, it's cute, it's nice.
Yeah.
But there's really no one who punishes that other than him.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it's a situational card, and I do like that mindset that when it's gone, and this is the best moment to play cards when they are gone.
Yep.
No one plays them. They're out of people's minds. Then you put it back in, and they're like, "What? Only a scrub would play that," and you're like, or a super smart guy that knows that that only a scrub would play that, and you think I'm not a scrub, and so here I am playing what you think is a scrub card. Yeah, those can be big blowouts.
The additional stand, it literally synergizes with everything you want to do. And if it's Bob, when you play it, you're going to win the combat most likely, unless you like must defend and you're on the back foot already.
Yeah.
Then, it's going to stand, and you're going to get a renown. That's just a huge, for $2 it's worth.
Yeah, I agree. So have you tried any other decks? I know you like your Tyrell Stark deck. It sounds like a fun, flexible deck. I actually think I'll probably try it this week. What else have you been trying?
I just built, and I know you're going to love this, a wall deck.
A wall deck.
I wanted to build like the ultimate defense of the wall deck. And so I've been trying to think of what to bring in, and there's really not anything great to bring in. So I went with something that I think I've seen before, which is Stark, because you get Eddard, who's really great at defending. And you also get Sansa to kind of force the power through, because you can actually be pretty passive, and if they toss something, like they can't attack you with power challenge because she'll get in there and then she'll gain power. And then if you have like Old Bear, like he can really populate a board pretty fast. If you get a little bird on him, he's really, really obnoxious. And with the wall out, he's going to be strength 7. So I think it's really good. It's really hard to set up. It's so freaking expensive. Yeah. Their economy is the worst.
And you have Bear and the wall. Good luck, sir.
Yeah. I got it out. You have to concede some points. I got out in the first game that I played with it, and it was very strong, and it came down to a heads on spikes where I only had a character in my hand, and I lost in the heads on spikes after we reset our reset our plots.
Sure.
But it was a good game, and I think that it has some play once we see more stuff. Specifically, I'd like to see like a reducer for the wall in some way, because the $4 is just it's a ridiculous piece of it's a ridiculous location, but the $4 is very cost prohibitive.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny because it's funny because I've only heard 2 people get the Bear out and the wall out together, and they've both lost. So you lost, Neil got it out against me, and he lost. It's interesting. It's like you would think that would be the time where you could look back on that and be like, all right, the deck usually doesn't work, but when you get it, it still loses.
I even had a Little Bird and Longclaw at one point.
Nice.
I had to get rid of my own Longclaw with a confiscation.
Oh, that really smarts, actually. The old remove your own attachment. And that, going back to the cheating thing, that's a kind of thing where I would never cheat there, because that's a framework action. But I know a ton of people would say, that is not cheating. That is simply, if you're not going to make me resolve my triggers, then that's on you, man. That's not on me. I disagree with that. I think that is on you. But
I agree as well.
I feel like that's where I feel like cheating is a bit more subjective than we would like it to be. As humans, we're very subjective creatures. There's not much that's black and white. So, and I don't think cheating is one of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree.
And it would be tough for FFG to really make it clear. Like, you have to have a cheating handbook that's like 800 pages long. In this specific instance, that is cheating. This is not. Oh, boy, that would be a little bit dicey.
Yeah, I'm really interested in, I guess the final deck that I was thinking about was a Lannister deck. I really like the card, The Things You Do for Love. I think it has a lot of really interesting applications. For example, I really like the play, because I was talking about this the other day. It's pretty common to have 3 people on board early. You draw an early one, You resolve it on a little guy, like a one-coster, bouncing it to their hand. You complete a military challenge. They lose their other guy, and then you can march their final guy.
Sure.
So I think that that's a pretty cool setup. And obviously, they've got the money. They've got a lot of cool things that they can do. I think they have relevant events, which I think was important for designing a deck around a certain faction, because usually that is the boost you might need. So I like them. They're pretty fun. And I like cards like Gold Cloaks are just very good. And,
To me, Lannister is the clear second best house. Like, if I had to rank them, I would say just out of the core set with how it synergizes together with its pieces, not having bad cards, Baratheon's first, and then for me, Lannister is second on its own. I mean, there may be some really cool banner combo. Like, I'm really intrigued by this Stark Tyrell banner combo, but on its own, I feel like Lannister has the second best card quality in the core set.
I would even say, like, overall, top to bottom, they might have a better stock. Their top end is just a lot weaker than.
Yeah, that may be true. I mean, originally, when I first went through and did my evaluations, just reading the cards, I said, okay, Lannister is the clear best faction. I actually had Baratheon maybe like fourth, because I didn't think the synergy would be strong enough. I was like, there's just, it's too janky. Like, all right, I have to draw this R'hllor package, and I don't have that many R'hllors, and what if I don't have Mel out? And it wasn't until I played it and put together the deck I currently play with that I said, okay, there's actually enough synergy where it just barely makes it. Like, it's on a razor's edge. I know in playtesting it must have been like, all right, we need to cut a R'hllor card. It's too good. Oh, now it's garbage. We have to add one back. And, like, it's just trying to figure out the exact right amount of R'hllor cards you can have in that before it gets great or terrible. It seems like a small difference.
Yeah, no, I think top to bottom they have like the best stock, but they're like we said, the top end is just it's so heavy in the Baratheon favor that you have to give them the nod. And then independently, also, I guess maybe you look at Greyjoy a little bit, only because like when they get out ahead, they're just the most frustrating faction to deal with, in my opinion. But
I really like Greyjoy a lot. I feel like Greyjoy is going to be so good in the future. Asha is good. They have all these stealth guys. It's actually going to be interesting because if stealth becomes more common, Greyjoy will be really bad. Because they actually don't have super powerful cards outside their stealth. But if stealth continues to be rare, and Greyjoy maybe gets another 2 stealth guys and some other quality guys, Greyjoy is going to be ridiculously good.
Yeah, specifically in the military challenge, like if you get 2 attacks out of Asha, like let's say they come out with stealth cards, but they're more like power and intrigue, and at least you can still get in there for your military and then choose to either block with her or attack again with power. Maybe then it commits their stealth guy to actually blocking, which isn't the worst either. So definitely an interesting ring of things. I like a lot of the cards. I'm going to be interested to see the attachments that come in from that faction because they are very low econ, very, I can see some cool weapons from them in the future, which with all that stealth could compound and be very dangerous.
Yeah, could you imagine an attachment that gives Asha renown?
I know, like Longclaw.
That would be amazing. Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that day. You put Little Bird on her, you put Longclaw on her, you win with Asha.
Yep.
Good game. I got Asha. Oh, I resign.
Oh, by the way, you killed her? Oh, no, she's risen. Oh, she finally died? Actually, bring her back with the...
I've got a lot of ways to keep bringing her back. Yeah, what's really funny is I stopped using Risen in my Greyjoy deck. It just... because the environment is so heavy on dupes and it's hard to actually remove things, it was just a shocking moment when I went, I don't think I need Risen right now. Like, I'll need Risen in the future. It'll be amazing, but today, I can do without Risen.
Today's not that day.
Yeah, today's not the day for Risen. I'll just put more good characters in.
Yeah.
Although that can be challenging with Greyjoy since they have a lot of not good characters in the core set.
They do.
What are you going to do? All right. That's it. That sounds interesting. We got all kinds of deck ideas. I think what we'll do is, do you mind if we post your Stark Tyrell deck?
Yeah, I'll send it here and we'll get it up there as well.
All right, that sounds good. I don't know if I'm going to play it this week at the tournament, but I'll definitely play it at the shop at some point. Are you coming to the tournament this week? And just a little advertising. If you happen to be in Los Angeles, Wednesday night, Pasadena Game Empire, we're having our first major tournament at 6 p.m. It's not a major tournament. We're going to go low-key, just do 3 rounds, no cut, help people out, that kind of tournament.
Yeah, just gotta get your fingers wet. That sounded terrible.
Fingers wet? What the hell are you doing?
Playing Game of Thrones. I think that's actually what they do in the show as well. I'm likely to be there. I'm actually leaving for Phoenix So it's possible that I leave on Wednesday, but Thursday I will definitely be in Phoenix. So I'm hoping to be there because I want to play some Thrones games for sure.
Gotcha. All right, sounds good. Well, before we get out of here today, we have to do what we always do, which is the card quiz.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've been defeated
every
time.
I'm not as crafty as Neil. I think it's just the way that he says it too. I had one. I thought of one like last week because you were like, "Oh, I got it. I know what it was."
All right. I actually don't know what to ask you. I don't know your proclivities well enough yet to know what would stump you and what would not. I have a card though.
Most things would stump me.
I'm
not going to go crazy here.
We're going to ask you first.
Okay, ask me first.
Your card is Maester Coletti, whatever his name is.
Maester Coletti.
Yep.
I think which one that is. I think that is the
something.
Maester for. Let me think here. It's not him. It's not him. I'm just double checking, making sure. I'm pretty sure it's the Maester for Martell.
It is the Maester from Martell. Okay. I was hoping you'd be just way off in left field.
He is. How much does he cost? 3 or 2? I'm gonna say he costs 3.
He does.
And he is power 2 or strength 2.
Yep.
He has a. Is he a bike? He has a power and intrigue.
He sure does.
And then his text, I'm not going to get the text exactly right, but
sure.
I'm pretty sure it's something along the lines of whenever he participates in or defends in a combat that loses, like he loses the combat,
yep,
he gets to choose an icon on an attacking character and they lose it.
Let's see. I don't think the character has to be attacking.
Just choose someone.
Yep, just choose a character.
Cool.
And then they lose an icon. Very good.
Sweet.
Aha. I can never stump anyone. I hate this game.
I'm going to give you something simple, I think. But
Robert Baratheon. I do know him. Wow. Thank you.
I wonder if would there be a way to stump you out of the
out of Baratheon?
Probably not. Okay. Mine is going to be only because you said last week.
Oh.
Okay, it's Sir Waymar Royce.
Oh, that guy? I kind of remember what he does. Let me see.
Okay,
I remember him. He's he's Night's Watch.
Yes.
He is 2 cost.
Nope.
3 cost.
Yep.
2 strength.
Nope.
3 strength.
Yep.
Power, military.
Yep.
His text
the other guy's a maester. Just a maester. We didn't talk about their types. The other guy's just a maester.
Yeah. This guy, I think he's a ranger, and I don't know. We'll just go with ranger.
And he's a knight.
He's a knight. Whatever. Okay, that will be relevant in the future.
That will be relevant. Yeah.
And then his text is, when he dies, discard a card at random from your opponent's hand.
Yeah. And something else. Common in the Night's Watch.
And
which doesn't help
you win.
And no attachments except for weapons.
Oh yeah. I do that part actually.
Remember Neil was like, he's a 3 for 3 Bicon. It's so good. You're like, it's problems when you're saying that this is what is great.
Right, that's what's great about Night's Watch. He's fine. He's definitely fine, but he's not amazing.
I'm going to chime in. Something that I didn't hear you guys say real quick, because after looking at Night's Watch and playing a little bit, and this is something that's really common in games, specifically War Machine, I think that they're just balanced around the fact that they think you want to have the wall out. I didn't hear you guys say it. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't.
Yeah.
Like, their strengths are just all worse. The cards are just all worse because they're balanced around the fact that the wall will be their multiplying, their being a force multiplier.
Yeah, and I think also because Jon Snow gets to be in every challenge, and so I think that has to balance them out as well. And then the problem becomes, if you're going to banner, Jon Snow is not in the deck probably, and so that they've been balanced around something that's not even in the deck. And even now, if you fealty, the cards just aren't good enough. I really think the future for Night's Watch is incredibly bright.
I even think that new agenda is really cool. The one where you have to lose the first one, but you win the third one by more, whatever, -1 strength and +1 strength in the final. Pretty cool.
I think it's going to be very interesting. It's going to be really neat with the new agenda. We'll see if we see fealty anymore. If people just go, I'll take the new agenda, thank you very much. So that'll be kind of interesting.
Very
All
cool.
right. Well, thank you so much for coming by, JB. Thank you, everyone out there, for continuing to watch Summer is Coming. And stay tuned next week. I think Neil, the real deal, will be back. I don't think he's been permanently
Thank God.
replaced yet.
No,
All
he's
right.
too good at stumping you.
Yeah, so thanks for stopping by, JB.
Not a problem. Thank you, Tiny.
We'll see you all next week on Summer is Coming.